John Maxwell wrote a fantastic book on communication, and he has a quote in there, and it's actually the title of the book. He said, "Everyone can communicate. Few people actually connect." When it comes to communication, you want to connect with your audience, and that's more than just giving them information that they can use. The way you connect with them is you have to break down some of those invisible walls in order to get to the audience and connect with them. And that starts from the very beginning, We're going to focus later on body language as one of the units, and something I'll share that Cynthia taught both Kevin and I. She has two things. She calls it power and likability, correct? She does a fantastic job of demonstrating this, that every audience member will look at their speaker, and those are one of the two things, or both of them, that they will look at from the very beginning when they have a first impression. What that means is when you look at the speaker, you're ranking them, whether you know it or not, on a scale of 1 to 10 on do they know what they're talking about. Does this person look confident? Do they look like they're experienced? Can I trust them for the information they're giving? And then the other one is, since we're human, we want to connect with them. We want to like them. We want to be able to approach them. You want someone that you can go up and talk to at the break. And so we want both of those. When we think about the audience, the previous section on purpose, I said think selfishly about what do you want. And really, you'll notice if you look at those three, know, feel, do is really all about the audience. And that's because it's always about the audience. Remember this, the speaker speaks for the audience. The speaker doesn't speak for the speaker. I'll give you one tip how to be one of the greatest presenters and speakers of all time. You only have to do one thing. Just this one thing. And now you're thinking of City Slickers and Curly, aren't you? Just this one thing. Here's the one thing you have to do as a speaker. Give the audience what they want. Don't forget, when you're the speaker, you showed up for a reason, and you usually know what that reason is. Don't forget the audience did the same thing. The audience showed up for a reason. And so we have to think about, what do I need to give them? Now, I worked for some Fortune 500 companies, and I was in business development. We had an outstanding marketing department. And the marketing department would develop these amazing decks of slides and push them out to the sales teams. And they were fantastic. They really were. They were amazing. Nothing I could ever imagine doing on my own. But when they pushed them out, unfortunately, the account management teams would quite often grab them and think that these amazing slides are going to sell for me. And they would set up a meeting with an executive like a CIO, and they would sit down and open the laptop and go through about 45 slides because they did look amazing. Is that what the CIO wanted in most cases? I'm not saying don't use these amazing decks, and if you're in the marketing department for a Fortune 500, I applaud you because you guys do come up with some amazing material. The point is this, that as a speaker, I will use that as my library to pull from, but I need to always understand what my audience is looking for. If we don't focus on the audience, we may end up presenting to a different audience. Here's what I mean. Audiences know when you're speaking to yesterday's audience. So we have to think about, who is this audience that I will be speaking at today, and what do they want from this? There's a series of questions, and we break it down to 5 different areas where you can actually ask questions and define who this audience is and what they actually want from you. What does the audience want, and how do we break that down? If you look at the multiple different areas that you could ask questions and define what they're looking for, we want to know who's in the room. If you know their names and their titles, even better, put those down. What are they expecting? Why are they showing up that day? They obviously want something. What do they want? Now, sometimes I get the question where they say, Russ, I have someone who makes calls for me and they set up all my sales appointments and then they just show up on my calendar and then I just go in and present. So I really don't know who's in my audience until I meet them for the very first time. So what do I do then? Anyone want to know the answer? Ask. Ask. Ask either the person setting up the appointments for you, ask them to gather a little more information. I started doing that at the Fortune 500s where I had a list of, I actually had 20. I told them you got to have at least 10 of these answered before I'll talk or before I'll come in and get me involved with one of your projects. I wanted them to answer these for me. Why? Well, it told me something about the audience. And then I had a good idea of where this conversation was going to go. The 2 parts of the prepare phase. We started just a few moments ago with what's your purpose? And that's the know, feel, do piece. And now the second piece is think about your audience and who they are. I've seen this happen before in the world that I was working in. It was managed IT services. And I had a group of salespeople that went out and they sold to a group of engineers at a large customer. They presented all the information. The engineers at the prospective customer loved it. They did the fast clap. They were very excited. And they said, we love this. Unfortunately, we don't sign the checks around here. So, I'll tell you what, we'll give it the thumbs up. You got to call the executives, set up a meeting next week, and come present all this to them. Okay, fantastic. But we got your approval? Yep, we're going to give it a thumbs up. The team leaves and they come back the next week and they meet with the executives. And guess what they presented to them? The exact same presentation. Question: do executives and engineers speak the same language? Do they have the same desires, the same needs, the same wants from an organization? No, they all want ultimately for the organization to do well, but they have very specific roles and jobs. That's the type of thinking that we want to have, is think exactly about what that person needs. Now, in our book, you will find a QR code that can take you to a video that was done back in, I believe it was 1991. J.C. Anderson is a professional golfer, and ESPN caught him on the practice tee. And so they filmed a little bit. It's about 2 minutes long. And he said, a lot of people ask me, what goes through my head and how can I be a better golfer? And so if you remember this, it'd probably be helpful, so maybe you should write this down. What I try to do is I try to snap, and he goes through what sounds like Einstein's dissertation on a golf swing. And it takes about 2 minutes, and you're just amazed that he can even remember all of that. Now, at the end of it, I usually ask this question. I'll say, did JC achieve his purpose, his goal for the presentation? And usually my students will say, no, he didn't. And I said, sorry, it's a trick question. It was unfair for me to ask that because you don't know what his purpose was. Remember, when we define purpose, you have 3 types of presentations: persuasive, entertaining, and informative. So I said, let me define all this for you. So it is an informative presentation. His goal was to speak to average golfers like you and me and teach us how to swing a golf club better. So now you know his objective, his purpose, and you know the audience he was speaking to: average golfers like you and me. Now, did he achieve his purpose? No. Miserable failure. I'm more confused now than ever. Let me change something. Let's go to a second scenario, and let's assume that we change the audience from you and me, average golfers, to it's actually someone who's as brilliant as Einstein, can swing a golf club like Tiger Woods, and went to MIT and got a master's degree. That's the audience that they're speaking to. Did he achieve his purpose now to help them swing a golf club better? I don't know. Still hard to say, isn't it? But do you see where I'm going with it? You might say, okay, he's moving in the right direction, maybe. Let's do one more thing, one more change. Let's go back to you and me as the average golfers. That's the audience that he was targeting with this video, average golfers. But let's change his purpose. He was not delivering an informative presentation. He was delivering an entertaining presentation, one that would put a smile on your face, make you laugh just a little bit for a couple of minutes. Now, did he achieve his objective? Yes. It was entertaining. Question: when I talked about all 3 of these, did the presentation change? No, it didn't. The presentation never changed. All I changed was the purpose for speaking or who the audience was. And do you see how we went from miserable failure to you're getting warmer to wow, that was really good? Just because you have an amazing deck of slides and a great presentation that you've prepared and you deliver it one week and it goes fantastic, and then the very next week you're wondering why it kind of flopped a little bit, oftentimes it's because we forget about these 2 pieces. What's the purpose that you're trying to achieve, and who is the audience that you're speaking to? The audience knows when you're speaking to yesterday's audience. Thank you.